Welcome to my course, Software Architecture and Design. Hi, I am Farzana Sadia, Senior Lecturer, Department of Software Engineering, Daffodil International University. Today in this session, we are going to learn about the type of structures. In the previous session, we have known what is software architecture, and we said that software architecture are the combination of structures. So there are different type of structures. In this session, we will be able to know the types of structure. In the previous session, we have understood that a software architecture is a set of software structures, and software structures are the combination of elements, and elements are the combination of different tasks and activities which are done during software development. So, the structures of software are categorized into three different types. One is module structure, second is component and connector structure, and third is allocation structure. Module structures are the structures which are the most basic and the most smallest unit of the software system. Like if we do consider the blue box as our whole project, and if we decompose the whole system into several subsystems, the several subsystems are these light blue boxes, then we have decomposed the whole system into small subsystems. These small subsystems can also be module structures. Small subsystems can also be decomposed in more smaller part, which can be called component, and these components can also be decomposed in another less smaller part, which can be the class. So module structures can be the classes, can be the packages of the system, can be the sub-projects of the system. So a whole project is not built by one single project, because the real-life systems are very big. So building together this at a time is not possible. In that case, the whole software system needs to be decomposed into several subsystems. The subsystem can be called as module structures. Those subsystems can be decomposed into smaller part, which can be said components, and those components can be decomposed again some smaller part, which can be called classes. So classes are also module structures. Then there are component and connector structures. Components are nothing but a set of elements, and set of elements are the tasks. So components are different tasks, and these components are those components which are executed during runtime. So component and connector structures are those components which are executing during runtime. Suppose a user is giving an input like username and password. So after user gives the username and password, the validation of the username and password is checked. So checking the validation of the input are the component, and these components are executing in runtime. So checking the input validation is component and connector structures. And connectors are the interaction between the components. So as the name suggests, component and connector structures, these structures are those components which executes in the runtime, and they connect and interact with each other during the runtime. So what can understand me the examples of component and connector structures? We know whenever we run a system, the system checks the input validation. So input validation is component and connector structures. Again, the system stores data in database. So storing data in database is also component and connector structures, and retrieving data from database is also component and connector structures. Again, whenever a user hits the server reloads all the data for the client, and the server returns the data for the client. This also happens in the runtime. So client and server connection and relation are also component and connection structures. Then whenever a user is doing shopping, when he checks out, he or she have to pay online. The online payment gateway works at runtime. So online payment gateway is also component and connection structures. Then allocation structures. Allocation structures are basically the physical structures. Like whenever you have built a software, with your compiler, with your own system. But whenever you want to release the software for the general people so that they can use your software, at that time you have to set your software somewhere from where all the user can use your system. All the user cannot use your compiler, so you have to choose different environment where you can set up your system, and user will be able to access the system from that environment. That environment, setting up your system in an environment and is called deployment. So after developing the software, you have to deploy your system in a server. So the client or user will hit the server, and they will get to able to use your system by hitting the server. So a software architect must understand about the allocation structures. This allocation structures talks about the server, how the server will work, and what will be the server structure, how the server will able to communicate with the clients. All these things will be defined in the server structures. So server structures are allocation structures. Again, a software architect know about his software development team. Suppose in a software development team he has 5 people. 2 people are good at working at front end, and the rest of the 3 people are good at working in the back end. So the software architect will categorize his structures and modules and will assign those structures and modules to the experts of his team. Those who are good at front-end development, so the software architect will assign the front-end work to the front-end developers, and the architect will provide or assign the back-end work to the back-end developers. So work assignment or the module decomposed module assignment to the developers are also a part of allocation structures. So here are some other examples of the software structures, and I am just summing up the whole thing. That is, software structures of 3 types. Module structures. Module structures are the system decomposition. The whole system will be decomposed into small subsystems. So decomposition is module structure. Again, the users means the class will be in a relationship with each other, like the class is a module structures, okay, and the relationship between the classes are also module structures. Like like there will be two users, registered user and unregistered user. So an unregistered user is a user. This is a user relationship. So a user relationship consideration is also a module structures. Then component and connector structures. In the component and connector structures, as we discussed earlier, client and server is an example of component structures. And any type of process, like whenever a user is giving input, after giving the input of the username and password, that username and password will be checked and validated. If the username and password is correct, then the client will hit the server. Then the server will load all the data of that specific username and will return the whole data to the client. This is a whole process. So the process is also a part of connector and component structures. Concurrency. Concurrency means those the processes which are working parallelly. Like whenever a user checks out from an online shopping system, two things parallelly is shown. Like whenever he or she clicks OK or confirm payment, at that time the amount of money is withdrawn from his account, and at that time the information is also saved in database. So in a particular or a specific time, whenever more than work task is accomplished, that is called concurrency. So whenever in a specific time two or more works are doing parallelly, that is called concurrency. So concurrency problems or concurrency scenarios are also part of component and connector structures. Database is an example of component and connector structures as well, as I have discussed earlier. And allocation. In allocation structures, the work assignment means the assignment of the software development, which module will be developed by which team, is a part of allocation structures. Again, deployment is a part of allocation structures. And implementation means how the system will be implemented. Like whenever I am building a software, how I will develop my software. Like in the front end I will use AngularJS framework, in the back end I will use C#. As database I will use MongoDB. These are different implementation. For doing my whole system, a data center is needed. This is also a part of implementation. And 2 server will be needed, 5 PCs will be needed, and 5 routers will be needed. These are the part of implementation. So work assignment, deployment, and implementation, these are also including allocation structures. So that's it. That is the example of different examples of software architectures which include software structures. So thank you. See you in the next session.